This conference will now be recorded.
All right, it is now 6 p.m. on Tuesday, February 20th, 2024, and I call this regular meeting of council to order here at the East Beaches Social Scene. I respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Anasininuu Nation, Dakota, Assiniboine, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Red River Métis. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous and Métis communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. We remind all residents that our meetings are available on video on our website. Delegations can be scheduled through the CAO, emails can be sent, and phone calls can be made to any one of us to get the facts on an issue or to register your concerns. Thank you to the Social Scene for setup and takedown of our meetings. Can you hear my mic, Tim? You can't. So you can hear that, but not me speaking into it.
You might have to do a whirlwind and like pull it right up.
That's better? Sorry about that. All right, introductions around the table.
Steve Axley, Lon Turner.
Penny McMorris, Mayor.
Erwin Cupker, Councillor.
Graham Randall, Councillor.
And on the screen.
Ian Chadsey.
Thanks. Nice to see you, Ian. All right, we will move on to the agenda, adoption of the agenda. Be it resolved, the agenda be adopted as presented. And I know there are some additions, so may I have a mover? Graham, thank you. Second. Steve, thank you. And we have 4 additions. Under 7E, EngTech, Sand Analysis, King Edward and Alexandra. Extrication Tools for the VB Fire Department. Brushing Attachment for Public Works. And EngTech Construction Monitoring for South Connaught. Are there any other additions, gentlemen, to the agenda? Ian?
Yeah, I just wanted to add the letter we got from, I guess it's Mr. Cameron for 14 Evergreen Road. I'd like to come up with a solution for that and send him a letter to let him know what he needs to do to clean up the mess.
Okay, thank you.
I had one more. I don't know if this is the right time, but I wanted to motion to table the second reading of the garbage bins bylaw.
We can do that when it comes up, Ian, if you like.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything further? Should we do it now?
You can delete it off the agenda if you want to go that far.
Gentlemen, how do you feel about deleting that off the agenda? Or
What purpose would be served by deleting it?
what purpose would be served by tabling it or taking it off the agenda is the question.
Well, I'm just concerned that we haven't really heard from any of the cottagers. It's the middle of February. We're pushing this thing through. I just think that we need to get a bit of feedback from some people that are going to be affected by this. I think what's going to happen is if we push this thing through, fines will be given out next summer, and then you're going to have a big kerfuffle, just like we did with the ORVs. I mean, people are going to say, why am I being fined? So I just feel much more comfortable if we could at least communicate this to people, that this is what we're going to pass, and if people want to talk about it, they can come and talk to us. But just doing it in the middle of February, it just seems like we're just hiding it and pushing it through.
Okay, how about we keep it on the agenda and talk about it when we get down there, please?
Okay, that's fine. And I seem to have some feedback on this microphone, so we'll have to restrict its usage.
Turn it off when you're not using it. All right, technical difficulties. All right, any further additions or discussion on the agenda? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. All right, move on to the minutes from the February 6th meeting. Be it resolved, minutes of the February 6th, 2024 regular council meeting be adopted as presented. May I have a mover? Steve, thank you. Second? Graham, thank you. Any discussion on the meeting, on the minutes, gentlemen?
I've read them and I've studied them and they look accurate to me.
Hearing nothing further, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. We'll move on to our committee reports. And up first is Public Works, which I forwarded to all members of council. Public Works update for February 20th, 2024. Work continues with dangerous tree removal. Water samples from the well at the fire hall and the Albert Beach pump house are tested monthly through the winter. Regular maintenance startup procedures will soon be starting at the BB water treatment plant and the Albert Beach pump house. A reminder for those coming out in the winter, windrows will be removed by request, and they would respectfully ask for 48 hours notice. Please call Public Works at 756-2286. Order forms for civic address signs can be found on the RN webpage. Cost is $60 per sign installed. Bear resistant bins will soon be available, we think, at a cost of $315 per bin. Preventative and routine maintenance is ongoing on all municipal equipment. Planning and organizing items are starting for the new egress road from the parking lot. Snow removal, grading, and road sanding is ongoing as needed. As always, e-service requests can be made from the Arm of Victoria Beach webpage. Any comments, concerns? All right, thank you very much. I'll move on to finance. Ian?
Not much to report. It is the first month of the year. The cash, excuse me, the cash position, 700,000. And we're still working on the budget, so there's no variance comparison. So not much to report.
All right, thank you, Ian. I'll move on to fire. Steve?
I've had computer issues. If you can come back to me in a minute, that'd be great. I had to restart the whole thing.
Okay, we'll move on to police. Erwin, please.
Again, a quiet month in January. There were two issues involving police checking on an alarm. The RCMP in Parview requested our police to assist on two issues. No break-ins, which is always good news. One issue involving a dog bylaw. There were two disputes. Again, we don't get details on what actually happened. It's off the activity report. 2 foot patrols were completed. There were 5 tickets or warnings issued with respect to speeding. There were 2 UTV patrols, so the total activity amounted to 101 items. And that compares with 92 items in the previous year. So again, I had a chance to talk with one of the local cottage surveillance company people today, and it's been quiet. So that's good news.
Okay, thank you. Steve, you ready? All right, Steve Fryer, please.
There were a total of 2 calls out in January. One of the calls was in the Arm of Victoria Beach. It was for the alarm company and ended up being a false alarm. The second call out was for a structure fire in the Arm of Alexander. This fire was in the attic of the structure. The cause was a chimney fire, of which I almost had on Saturday. The chimney had been cleaned in the fall. Failure could have been a failed section of the chimney pipe, damage to the structure. There was damage to the structure, but there was no injuries. Brad has been watching for long-range fire forecast for 2024, and the forecast is saying that Canada should be on high alert for the 2024 wildfire season. Looking outside and seeing that we do not have much moisture to add to our already dry conditions in the area, this forecast is something to think about. We continue to train and maintain our equipment and gear over the winter months. And we've also been lucky enough to have had some new recruits that the fire department is training and will have ready for basic firefighting this coming fire season. And just a reminder to remove and replace all of your conifers with deciduous trees, please. And there's a huge wood chip pile that is building up rapidly. So if you can come get some to use to help with moisture retention in your soil, that'd be great.
All right, thank you, Steve. I have no report for special events. So Steve, I'll hand it back to you, please, for the golf course.
The golf course, maybe we found somebody, we don't know. There's an interview that's coming up shortly, and fingers are crossed tightly. I don't think we can really say anything else than that.
Okay, thank you. Municipal buildings, Graham?
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything specific to report on municipal buildings at this rather slack time of the year, but I wanted to point out one peripheral item. We'll be discussing a land planning proposal with Unit 7 architects, which will seek to determine future building and development locations, egress, and roadways to deal with future site planning for, here's where the list goes on and on, for public works, police, fire hall, brush pile, eventual municipal offices. The purpose is to evaluate various options and consider traffic patterns as well as connectivity with scaled mapping, and to come up with a unified plan to meet future needs. This is just in the discussion stages. I'll share these discussions with council, of course, including cost factors as and when they arise in the course of our conversations. And that's it for municipal buildings.
Okay, thank you. Move on to doctor committees, Steve, please.
So there's been, there are 7 weeks that are filled with doctors. One of the weeks is filled with a nurse practitioner. And I'm just getting fully up to date with everything that's been going on, only because I just got my emails all back in order. It sounds like they have everything under control. There is an effort to digitize everything so that way every year it's consistent year to year. And yeah, so that's pretty much everything covered, but it sounds like this year is going to be fairly solid.
That's great, thank you. On to communications. I can just advise council that I've been working on the Cottagers Guide to the Beaches insert that we put in every year. And it's a bit of a challenge writing it in March or February for a spring, summer publication. But now that we've had our second round of budget talks, maybe I've got a little more to add to the article. So if there's something you can think of that we should be putting in that very short article, please let me know. Anything from you, Steve?
I was only going to say, just with budget and everything, even though we haven't finalized anything yet, is just also to maybe remind residents that last year we didn't increase taxes by inflation. So then this year might have to go up slightly more just to try to make up for that difference. And that's something that most municipalities across the board are doing. So just to try to make up for that loss. Oh, that and stay off Facebook.
All right, thank you. Summer Information Office, I have no report at this time, so I'll hand it over to Graham, Building Inspector, please.
The only report I've got is that, as we know, we're still waiting for the replacement windows to arrive. I'm going to make a few calls and send out some emails, see if I can get an update. I don't think it's too soon to start asking when. Okay, when?
And that's for the Information Office that you're talking about.
That's right, for the info office. Other than that, all the renovations that were prescribed have been done quite successfully, I would say.
What about well, that's a different matter, but the village washroom, village green washroom.
I spoke with Wolfcraft about the village green washroom, and he's ready to spring into action as soon as the season permits. Whether that might require a request for an extension on the grant or not, I would like to leave it in Lon's capable hands.
Okay, thank you. And Building Inspector Graham.
The report I received from our building inspector, Curtis Baudouin, as follows. It's a pretty short list. One main building and one foundation. The value of the permit's $250,000, and the foundation was worth $29,000. So they obviously taken that one seriously. The fees collected, $1,675 for the main building, $1,224 for the foundation. Year to date, value of permits, $279,000, and year to date fees collected this first month of the year, you will recall, $2,900. Rather small amount, but it's always small at this time of year.
All right, any comments, questions? All right, again, no report for accessibility other than waiting for an update on the Village Green washroom. So I'll move on to trails, Steve.
So the cross-country ski trails group has groomed, they groomed last Thursday after moderate snowfall. It has improved the skiing conditions considerably. However, the snow is rapidly melting, so they're hoping for another big dump. They might be the only people in Manitoba hoping for that. But yeah, if the opportunity comes, they'll do it, and if not, then they won't.
Yeah, it's been a slow season. All right, thank you. Friends of the Moonlight Inn, Graham?
Two items to report. First of all, the committee, most of the committee is aware that there'll be a Zoom meeting on March 4th to review some landscaping concepts that's been presented to the architect. I have no idea what they're going to entail, but after that meeting, we should be able to report more fully. As far as I know, the invitation's gone out to all committee members, so we'll see how that goes. The other item pertaining to the Moonlight Inn, unfortunately, our architect, Dean Severson, he's encountered technical difficulties. His computer is down. You know, poop happens. We can't help it. He feels rather badly not having the report that he had led me to expect, but promises he'll have something for us for the next meeting. So if it's worth sharing, I'll look for an opportunity to sort of inject that at the next meeting. And that's it for the Moonlight Inn.
All right, thank you. Gotta love technology.
Thank God it's the future.
Yeah.
Question.
Go ahead.
Graham, just an update, what's happening with the liquor license for the Moonlight Inn, if anything?
As far as I know, Aaron is in the process of applying for a liquor license, but I would have to confirm that. He hasn't, it was his intention, and I said, well, you can probably expect council to support your application. I don't know how far he's progressed, and it's a good question. I'll ask him where he's at. He's well aware of the fact that it's him who pointed out to us that he has to apply for the permit. So it's a good question, and I'll give him a call and ask him.
Council approved the idea.
Yeah, it was approved in general and in principle. Okay, and he knows that.
Got a letter of support. All right, any further questions on committee reports? All right, be it resolved to adopt the committee reports as presented. May I have a mover? Erwin, thank you. Second, Steve, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. We move on to the accounts payable listing. Be it resolved, the following list of accounts be approved for payment. Checks numbered 11991 to 12033 in the amount of $341,776.96. Ian, would you like to move that motion?
Sure.
Great, thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Graham, thank you. Ian, any comments on the accounts?
No, I think the accounts payable are pretty much in order. Nothing really stuck out other than the bill for the foundation of the Moonlight Inn. I think it was $243,000. So maybe, Graham, at your next meeting, you should let people know that there's only $272,000 left to do the rest of the renovation. And if you're talking about landscaping, just let them know that there's only $272,000 left in that fund.
Well, in fact, most of that 272 is taken up by this particular check issue from the fund. And we have been advised by our anonymous donor that he is quite happy to ante up another $500,000.
Oh, wow. That's great.
I've extended our gratitude to him. Words can't express how appreciative we are. So it's a good point, Ian, but it's under control.
All right, thank you. All right, where was I? All right, sorry. All right,
Well,
any,
that's a bit of a showstopper.
bit of a showstopper, yeah. Any further discussion on the accounts? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. All right, oops. All right, business arising from the previous meetings, zoning bylaw update. We have received an updated draft copy of the zoning bylaw from our planner at Landmark Planning for review by council. Next steps should include gathering our comments together. If they need to go back to Landmark, we can do that. And then we need to, I guess, sit down with our planner and we'll arrange to put this on the website, organize an open house, probably in May or June. I'm thinking out loud here, so don't quote me on any of this, but, and we'll need to get some further public input before we take it to the next reading. Anybody else have any comments on that? All right, thank you. To new business, the Shoreline Advisory Committee terms of reference. Be it resolved to approve the Shoreline Advisory Committee terms of reference. May I have a mover? Steve, thank you. Second? Erwin, thank you. All right, so as you know, council, we've gone back and forth. We've received suggestions from residents and council and Lon on this terms of reference. The document has been updated, and I just want to remind everyone that it's sort of a living document. Terms of reference can be updated, and it's in the terms of reference that we can update it if we find we need to do that. So once we pass this resolution, we'll need to then put the list of names together and reach out to residents who we think would be a good fit for this community or committee, and go from there. Any discussion from council on this?
Just to emphasize that it's not written in stone and can be reviewed on a regular basis and changes made if necessary.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Ian, any comments? You're very quiet.
No, I gave my comments earlier on it through the email, so I think they've all been collected.
Right, okay. Steve?
For me, I'm just more worried about just the division between the backlot, like, because it is specifically saying backlot owners and lakeshore owners. And I'm personally much more comfortable with, what we had discussed in the last meeting, which is to give the engineer a vote and then just have a split, so that way you don't have this us versus them mentality. I'm just very worried that might come up again, and that's the only way that I see that it can be as neutral as possible with the uneven votes, which you need to have in voting. But I don't see any other way to not have it become an us versus them issue, and that's what I'm worried about.
I think that depends a lot on who we get on the committee and their willingness to be reasonable and listen and accommodate and compromise. And
I mean, for my part, I'm fine with voting for this. It's just that's the thing that I'm nervous about. And yeah, I agree, but at the end of the day, then you still have the other people who, despite seeing who might be out there, and no matter how unreasonable the people on the committee might be, then you still might say, well, there's those three are. I just worry about that.
well, don't forget, in the document, there's an opportunity for an appeals process as well. Go ahead.
Clearly, the electorate has been telling us that they want to have balanced representation. And I think the amendments that were made provide for that balanced representation. It's a good start. Well, it's a restart, I suppose. And I think, I look forward to receiving the suggestions and comments from the committee, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for some feedback, some learned feedback that has been studied and analyzed. And I think let's get this thing restarted.
I agree. All right, any further comments, gentlemen? All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, moving on to the curbside waste collection bylaw, 1642, second reading. Be it resolved to approve this, wrong one. Be it resolved to give the curbside waste collection bylaw 1649 second reading. May I have a mover? Steve, thank you. Second. Graham, thank you. And discussion.
To address the point that Ian has made, it's my understanding that this bylaw has been up on our website for the public review since first reading.
No, it hasn't.
It hasn't? Okay. Well, then I think we have to consider Ian's suggestion.
Steve?
We spent how much money specifically on building that new garbage depot?
A lot.
Yeah. And we spent how much money building the last one? A lot. And so we keep spending a lot of money trying to fix the garbage problem. And we've been saying since we got on council, we were going to do this effectively maybe like a year after. So, I mean, everybody should have been more than aware that this was coming. And I mean, I don't think we've had an official agreement that would be issuing warnings in the first year. But I mean, for my part, if we go ahead, we pass the bylaw, we issue warnings all throughout this year saying this is what the fine could be, this is coming next year no matter what, then that allows people to get their, to say that this is on the books. It's coming, it is going to happen next year, but this is a bylaw. So that's the way that I would like to see this happen. If we push it forward again, we push it forward again, and we push it forward again, this is not going to happen. I'm really tired of having this because we need the bears out. And the garbage depot up there, it worked. I don't like the location of it, but it worked, except that now we still have the one major issue with people leaving their garbage out on the side of the road that's completely open, and the bears are loving it.
Thank you.
Steve, just to clarify, we're talking about putting this into force this summer. You said next year, so I was confused.
So if what I'm saying is that if we pass it now, we can have it on the books. This is a bylaw. But then to Ian's point, and I believe that I had raised this earlier, which is that I'm concerned that people will say basically what Ian said, which is that, well, this is happening right in the middle of the year, despite the fact that we've been saying for years that we were going to do that. We get accused of saying that, oh, you're doing things over the winter. If we were to issue warnings saying that this is an active bylaw right now, that this is going to be your warning, then in 2025, then we can start to actually issue the tickets themselves.
That doesn't really make.
Sorry, Ian.
Go ahead.
I don't think we've ever passed a bylaw that has fines associated with it, and then put in a little footnote, we only intend to issue warnings in the first year. No, that is a discretionary item after the fact. I like the bylaw the way it is right now, and I'm quite prepared to vote in favor of second reading, providing it goes up on the website and we give sufficient time for some feedback from our residents.
Okay, Thank you. Ian had something to say.
Yeah, I just want to ask a few questions. How many people get garbage pickup in the restricted area, roughly?
I don't know. I would, a majority for sure, but I don't have that.
I had an estimate at one time by one of the guys at Public Works said in the 800s or something like that.
Well, I think there's only 800 properties in the restricted area, so I don't think
Oh.
all 800 get picked up,
Well,
but
okay, yeah,
it's
So it's
substantial,
over 500, right?
possibly.
okay.
Right. And then how long have they been picking up garbage? Is it 50 years, 40 years, 30 years?
At least 50,
That's a good question.
a long time.
There was a garbage contract in bylaw in 1984. And there was a garbage removal bylaw in 1978 and a garbage removal bylaw in 1966. So from 1966 was the first one I could find.
So 50 years?
Yep.
A long time. I guess that's the point. You know, when I look at this, I'm trying to look at it from, and I'm not in the restricted area, so it doesn't affect me at all, but I'm looking at it from people that are in the restricted area that have had their garbage picked up for 50 years. And the idea that they're going to get a ticket for putting out their garbage, I just think they're going to get a little frustrated. And if you've got over 500 people, you're talking maybe, I don't know, 50 tickets, 30 tickets. I just, you know, I've been around for, I guess, 50 years buying houses. I've never seen anybody give a ticket out for the garbage. There's something wrong with this approach that we're taking, that we're first of all, I guess Steve, as Steve said, I mean, he's been asking for this for at least 6 months that I know of. And it all of a sudden came up when I was away last week or 2 weeks ago. And the first reading said, you know, if you know, after a few warnings, if you don't, you know, have the proper bin, we're going to fine you $500. Now we've watered it down to $25 or $50, but I just think you need to get some feedback from people. I mean, you said that earlier about the Shoreline Committee report. You wanted to get feedback from people. I just think I just feel very uncomfortable, you know, passing something like this in the middle of the winter, and then people aren't going to realize this until they start getting tickets. Whether you do it, you know, this year or next year, I think you're going to get a lot of people very upset. So I can't support this.
Okay, but don't forget, this is only second reading. Bylaws require 3 readings. Steve had his hand up, and I can say that we have been talking about bear-resistant bins and making them mandatory since about 2019 or 2020.
2000.
So it's not new, but a bylaw and a fine schedule is new. Steve?
So the 2 councils ago, they were wanting to radically change the garbage system. After these councillors were elected, and Penny, you were on the one previous to when we came up, we said that we were going to address garbage issues. Very quickly, we looked at bear-resistant bins. I don't recall the exact month, but it was within the first year that we said that we were going to make bear-resistant bins mandatory. We've been saying that we've been going to do it for that entire time, but it's been a very slow process, mostly because of the location of the depot. So what we had put in originally was meant to be the solution. It didn't work properly, so we have this new one with a fence around, and we actually have a solution now that is really starting to work. This entire time, though, we have also been saying that we are going to make bear-resistant bins mandatory. One of the pushbacks from the community was saying that, well, what about the municipal bins? And we started to seriously address that and address it quickly in the last several years. That still leaves, however, many renters specifically who don't understand the bear issue that we have up here, as well as a lot of other locals who still have just basic bins. We've offered to pay for as an affordable alternative as we can get. We're going through and we're putting in another order. We have a system where there's not going to be the type of delay that we've seen in the past, because we have a dedicated person who can work on this. This is something that it's not an end if or but. And as for the fact that we're the only municipality, that's not remotely close to true. Anywhere that you have a municipality where they have ongoing issues with bear issues, which is the whole reason why this is certification for bear resistance when it comes to bins, it's places like Banff, all through BC. And if you want to find schedule, you can go to those municipalities and they are either equal to or far greater than what we're proposing here. What we're proposing here, and I never changed the proposition. It was $25. Then I think maybe I said 50 or 75 after that for the second one. We had a small little deliberation, and then I believe it was 500. Then we sort of said, well, why don't we just simply buy the bin for them on the third fine, so that way you can just eliminate the problem. And then the final one, if you still go so far as to not using the bin that we purchased for you, then it comes up to $1,000. So that is actually more reasonable than what some other municipalities have done. So again, you have at least 5 years of us saying that we're going to do that. You have at least 5 years of us going through this process, and we just need to get this thing on the books already. Like we can't do much more to say that this is going to happen.
Well, it is true that most other municipalities in Manitoba don't charge fines associated with garbage pickup, because none of them have garbage pickup. We're one of the very few that has this. So let's recognize the unique situation we find ourselves in.
And it is available throughout the entire RM, but the majority of the residents in the vehicle restricted area do get garbage pickup all summer. But it is available. That service is available. All right.
I have
Sure.
another question. So if there's, I don't know, say 500 or 600 people that get garbage pickup in the RM, does that mean the people that are running the truck are going to have a file or a laptop to say and mark down, somebody that's put out the wrong bin, and keep a record of that, and then report that back to Lon, and then Lon has to keep a record of that, and then they have to go back when they do the pickup the next week. They got to go back and say, oh, this is number 2 for this guy, so now it's $25. I mean, are the garbage collectors are the ones going to keep track of all of this? I just, there's been no discussion at all as to how this thing gets rolled out. Is the police going to go and knock on the door and write a ticket? I mean, how is that all going to work?
Good questions. Public Works doesn't have the authority to write a ticket, but our police and our CSOs do, and our CAO could issue a fine as well. Yes, for good or bad, it would be Public Works employees, or maybe one of us riding along in the truck for a couple garbage days to determine who does or who does not have the required bin, and how many times it happens. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. I think administratively we're going to get more pushback, but the bins do work.
I have one. I agree with you 100%. I'm just,
Yeah.
as I said, this is not my issue at all. It's I just think we're rushing this thing through, and I just would like to at least go through a bit more conversation on exactly how it's going to roll out, who's going to do the work. I haven't heard from the police. I was asking this earlier. Has anybody talked to the police? Are they comfortable writing tickets? I saw an email from Irwin giving a recount of all of the activities that the police did last year, and I don't think they wrote too many speeding tickets. So now we're going to be asking them to write 50 or 80 tickets for people putting out the wrong garbage bin. I mean, is that something they're going to be comfortable doing? I haven't heard from Public Works whether they're going to feel comfortable going through a list of 500 or 600 people and keeping track on who's putting out the wrong bin. I mean, that's just extra work. So I certainly would like to hear from them to get their views on this. I don't know, maybe Penny, you've heard from them. I know you read the Public Works report, but from those reports that I've heard over the last few months, I haven't heard you say that they're complaining about this sort of thing. So I'd just like to get a better sense of how this whole thing's going to roll out.
Good question.
And you can see where the problem's going to be with people that loan their cottage to a friend or a family member, right? And so if they put up the garbage and they don't realize they've done the wrong thing, they get a warning. And then, someone else, does it again. And then all of a sudden there's a ticket. And, it's just going to be a bit of a mess, I think.
But in the end, that's what we're trying to eliminate is the mess made by the bears. I've walked every single road and laneway in this community, and if you go through the VRA on a Monday, you come across bear damage, garbage all over the place, and our public works are being asked to clean it up, and that's not right. We've got to do something about, it's not about garbage cans, it's about the bears. We've got to eliminate the source of food, and then the bears won't come around anymore.
Okay, Steve?
Just to clarify, Public Works has been saying for years they're sick and tired of cleaning up garbage. It was one of the reasons why we started the whole process in the first place, is because it was strewn everywhere. And when you have our employees digging around in the bush to get the garbage that the bears have dragged in, then yes, it is actually costing the taxpayer. It's also costing Public Works a lot of time and effort to go in and do that stuff when they could easily be doing something else. And as for the logistics of things, I recall an email that I received very recently saying that I should only give yes or no answers. So, and not logistics.
Okay.
So just specifically, if we're talking about logistics, it's not something that would be all that complicated. The police, their job is to write tickets, so they don't have an issue with writing tickets. They do offer a lot of warnings at the beginning when the season first opens, because people forget that there's that change from 100 down to 70, but then eventually they do write tickets. And it's not fair on them to say that, well, they haven't been issuing that many tickets, therefore they can't do their job.
Okay, I think we're going around a little bit here. So, Graham?
Just to present my point of view once again, and to give Ian due consideration, I'd like to suggest we push this through second reading and give it a couple of weeks or maybe a month or two to get feedback before we tinker with it anymore for third reading.
I can support that. All right, so we do have a resolution on the floor. So I will remind you that it is to give the curbside waste collection bylaw number 1649 second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One. Ian, thank you. All right, passed. So can we agree to put second reading up on the website? Thank you, Lon. And we'll hope to hear from residents. They're usually pretty good about letting us know what they think. They are.
Is there any way that we can take that on, or as a condition of our passage, is that it will be up for sufficient time for people to provide their feedback? Was that is agreed and understood amongst council? Is that true?
Yes, that's true. How about we agree to bring it back in a month?
Okay.
So that would be March 19th.
Question?
Go ahead.
Lon, would it be appropriate to use VB Connect to let people know that a copy of the proposed bylaw is on the website and encourage them to take a look at it?
It's supposed to be for emergency. It's very serious.
I was just going to use Connect in the spring, just to let everybody know about the bylaw, the garbage pickup, you need a bear bin. That was after this would be passed. I didn't think about putting it on now. I can do whatever you want though, it doesn't matter.
I can tell you in my own municipality, St. Andrews, where I live, VB Connect, it's not VB Connect, obviously, it's St. Andrews Connect. It is used for public service announcements, not just emergency.
Yeah, anything that's important and timely that we think should be shared with our public sooner rather than later.
Yep.
I would use it, but that's just my opinion.
All right. Are you all right with that one?
Yeah.
And I can put it on our RMVB Facebook as well. Okay. Thank you very much. Good debate. All right, I will move on to the donation agreement resolution. Be it resolved to accept the property donation to the RM of Victoria Beach and authorize Mayor McMorris and CAO Turner to sign the donation agreement on behalf of council. May I have a mover? Steve, thank you. Graham, second. Thank you. So council received this in your information, in your council package. It is a narrow strip of land that goes near from the yacht club up towards Pier Point, and much of it is now lake, but it does encompass the area around the swim docks as well. So this is being donated to us by a family. So any concerns or questions on the documentation? Go ahead, Ian.
I was just curious, what's the size of the land? Is it an acre, half an acre, quarter acre?
Let me try and find that for you. I'm not sure that it actually gives, it has the legal description. It is just a long, narrow strip along the shoreline into Yacht Club Bay.
So it's the strip of land on the side of the road going up to the pier, is that what I understand?
Correct, on the Yacht Club side.
Right. So maybe is it 5 feet wide, and then it's a question of how long it is? Is that what it is
Well, I
roughly?
think originally it was wider than 5 feet in, but Mother Nature has removed some of it. It doesn't give an, unless it's on the map, just a second. Yeah, it doesn't really say.
I guess what I was wondering is how did we come up with a valuation for that piece of property?
Assessment, Manitoba assessment and the lawyer.
Yeah. Basically what it says.
Sorry, you're breaking up there. I didn't hear what you said.
Sorry, it's the assessed value according to Manitoba assessment and the legal representation, I guess.
So Manitoba assessment, I haven't heard of that. What's that?
Oh, they assess all of our properties, all of our land.
Oh, so it's a government.
Look at the value on your tax roll.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, now I get it. Thank you.
Sorry, Ian. And it's the address is 121 Pier Road.
And it's my understanding that this gift does not impose any cruel or unusual conditions on the municipality, other than the request for a tax receipt, but that costs us nothing.
No, nothing was in there.
No.
Red flags.
No. Any other comments or concerns?
Well, that whole road is subject to erosion in the high water years, so by gaining ownership of that strip, we would be in a position to stabilize that road if necessary.
They said the frontage of that property along the road is 1,050 feet.
Long.
Yeah, so it's right along the road. That's,
So it's all the way from
Yeah.
essentially that club
That's all it
beach to
says.
the pier.
Yes. Any other questions on that, Ian?
No, I just was, I didn't really understand where the land was, and I mean, you sort of wonder how a road, they must have given up their land for the road or something. I don't know how did that piece of land end up in that shape?
I think actually the road has sort of migrated towards that side, but our road is still there. It's on the left-hand side. If you're heading towards the pier, it's on the left-hand side. So.
Right.
And a lot of that has eroded.
If we have title to that property, that makes it a little bit simpler to do something with that Erwin and I have been arguing about for years. We're going to have to build that up or kiss the road goodbye. But that's all in the future. This actually helps that.
And there is some erosion protection there. There are large boulders all the way along, north of the swim docks.
Yeah,
Between the swim docks and the
After
pier.
the boulders, there's this much till you get to the grass.
Yeah, so. Any further questions, gentlemen?
No.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you.
And thank you to the donors.
I think. All right, moving on to the vehicle restriction period for 2024. Be it resolved to approve the vehicle restricted period beginning at 11:59 PM on Thursday, June 20th, 2024, through to 6 AM on Monday, September 2nd, 2024. May I have a mover? Steve, thank you. Second? Ian, did you second that? Did I see your hand or was I? Great, thank
No,
you.
no, it's word there for a second.
Any discussion on this, gentlemen?
Until it fails.
All right, it does match with our bylaw, which states the Thursday closest to June 23rd. So this one is June 20th. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? Oh, sorry, Steve.
I have one question. How come we need to pass this resolution every year? Why can't we just make it a norm?
Because July or June 23rd is not the same, like the Thursday in June is not always the same. So it just clarifies it for everybody.
Okay.
That would be my reasoning for it.
That scared me for a second, that nobody seconded it. It seems very fragile.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. All right. Did I call the vote?
Almost.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. All right, moving on to new business 7E, which was added to the agenda. Be it resolved to approve an initial sand volume assessment of the King Edward and Alexandra Reach by ENGTech at a cost of $2,400 plus GST. May I have a mover? Erwin, thank you. Second? Graham, thank you. This is pretty self-explanatory. We would like to hire ENGTech to do an initial sound volume assessment and of King Edward and Alexandra. We will hopefully do the same for Connaught South. This is just to get the ball rolling here. Any comments, questions, concerns? Juan?
I would just say it's a baseline to compare down the road. Whether you do it every 5 years or whether you do it after every high water event, it's up to council, but at least it'll provide a good baseline.
Well, we made a commitment when we agreed to the co-op, when we would begin to study movement of sand, and this is a support of a technical company to provide us with some empirical evidence on some sort of regular basis, so that we'll have some hard data rather than speculation.
And I think this is something, once we get ENGTech's initial assessment, we could possibly ask our Shoreline Advisory Committee to work with the engineer to determine how to do it on an annual basis.
Absolutely. And this is really just doing what we said we were going to do. And I like the idea that should filter through to the Shoreline Advisory Committee.
All right, anything else, gentlemen?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. Uh, 7F, be it resolved to approve the fire department purchase of extrication tools and an electric pump for $8,000 US plus freight and applicable taxes, duty, and exchange rate conversion. May I have a mover? Steve, thank you. Second, Graham, thank you. Brad, our fire chief, has brought this to our attention. This is a used system that has a few extra tools that we can utilize. And even though it's coming from the States, it's still a very good price, we are told.
Yeah, it looks good. And to put it in more meaningful terms, this device is what's generally referred to as the jaws of life to enable you to extract people from crushed vehicles. It's very useful and helpful. And this one has lots of accessories associated with it. So it's a good deal. And I'm in favor of it.
Thank you, Steve.
Our jaws of life no longer work properly overall. So it's not just nice to have, it's an absolutely essential tool, and it can be the difference between life and death for somebody. So it's not something that we can really say no to, but yes.
Okay, thank you. Erwin?
Nothing further.
Ian?
No, I'm fine with it.
Okay, great, thank you. Hearing nothing further, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried, thank you.
Can it be used to get counselors out of trouble?
No. All right, moving on to 7G. Be it resolved to approve the Public Works purchase of a 72-inch brush cutter severe duty series 2 for $27,323.99 Canadian plus applicable taxes. May I have a mover? Steve, thank you. Second, Graham, thank you. Again, this is something that will help our Public Works Department with brushing back trails, some roadsides, fire breaks. It is an important smart fire management tool. Steve, you want to add?
It's easily going to be the most effective tool we have to start acting on the underbrush, as well as dead trees that are falling over. I would like it to be used as soon as possible in the golf course, which is it's really, really bad in there. But the effectiveness of this tool really can't be overstated.
And it attaches to our skid steer, which we purchased last year.
Yeah, our brand new skid steer. And it's from the same dealer who we dealt with for our brand skid steer. It might be worth mentioning that our fire chief has been lobbying for this for years, in addition to Public Works. The time has come to get a machine that will help us clean up some of the brush and overgrowth. What expressed his concerns about whether this device makes a mess or not. They all make a certain amount of mess. There's always some tidying up afterwards.
I also want to say, sorry, the 2 quotes were obtained for this attachment, one from Brandt, which we're looking at approving tonight. And they're in Winnipeg, so it makes sense financially and for transportation and repairs. The other one was in the US, and it was ultimately going to be more expensive when you bring it in, transport, shipping, duty, all that kind of stuff. So the guys opted for, or are hoping for, the one from the Winnipeg manufacturer, or Winnipeg company.
Driven the skid steer down.
Erwin?
I think, I look forward to seeing this piece of equipment operational. I think it will be very useful for managing many of the aspects of the woods. I'm not convinced that it will work for clearing out all of the deadfall that exists in all of our forests. I'm concerned that it would create a real mess in the woods. But I'm willing to support the idea, and let's see how it works. I think there's all kinds of appropriate uses for it. But to suggest that it's going to be the solution for clearing out our deadfall, I think that's time will tell on that one.
I think that's a bigger issue.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Ian. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering, certainly there's a lot of uses that it could be used for, but what was the reasoning that Public Works had for wanting to buy it? What was their rationale?
They like to use it for clearing some of the trails. They'd like to use it for clearing, there was a fire break, for instance, on King Edward Road East. They would like to get in there and try and reopen that. They would like to use it wherever it needs doing. I mean, for deadfall, if they can reach it without making too much of a mess.
So I don't really know what this machine does. Is it just taking brush, or can it take small trees, or
It can
what does
also
it
take
really?
small trees.
Yeah, in effect, it's a mulcher. Yeah.
So it just goes in and chews up what's in front of it, kind of thing?
It can, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Up to a certain width, of course.
Right. Okay, thanks.
I was also going to say that it's not insanely wide. So before anybody thinks that we're going to go in there and rip down every tree in the forest, that's just simply not the case. It's not extremely wide. It's highly maneuverable because it's on a skid steer, which is already very maneuverable as is. So you can really get into tight spaces and take care of the problem that you need. And also the shredded chips that are left behind, if scattered properly, can act as a moisture retainer into the soil. So it really helps on a number of issues. The other thing too is that whereas pulling all the material out of the forest and then chipping it and hauling it away, that does not allow for the proper breakdown of the material that's in there because you're removing it. This would allow material to decompose, but again, also add that other layer of moisture retention to the soil, which is sorely needed right now.
Okay. Any other questions, gentlemen? Thank you. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. All right, moving on to 7H, be it resolved to approve the hiring of EngTech to monitor the construction process of the South Connaught Protection Project. May I have a mover? Graham, thank you. Second. Erwin, thank you. Again, this is the same service that EngTech provided us for the King Edward and Alexander project, providing us with very frequent reports and being down on site from day to day, not every day, but many days. Any comments or concerns about this?
Was the pricing going to be roughly comparable to the King Edward and Alexander?
Exactly the same.
All right, so we're just following the same reasonable path to do what we said we were going to do. That's good enough for me. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments or concerns, gentlemen? No. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. All right. We are moving on to correspondence, information, and announcements. Oh, sorry, Ian, you had something on the agenda. No, it was, oh, right, to do with trees being removed on Evergreen. It's my understanding that Lon and our building inspector are going to be dealing with this based on the bylaws we have in place.
Yeah, but it's great to discuss it, to see what you guys really want to see done here.
Do you want to speak to this, Ian?
Yeah, sure. I was really quite shocked, to be honest. I was up there, I guess it was last weekend, and it was last weekend, or the weekend before. And as I drove up, I just saw, all of this brush on the side of the road. I saw about 30 trees cut down. I took samples of some trees that were at least a foot wide, so I was really quite surprised. And then talked to Mike, the former counselor, about this, and he was quite ticked off that they cut a big hole in, like, he left 10 feet of brush in front of his cottage so that he'd have privacy. I mean, he has 2 lots there, and they cut a big hole, so now he's looking at my cottage, and he was kind of kidding me that it's not really what he wanted to see. But anyways, so he wasn't too happy about it. And then I talked to Curtis, the building inspector, and he told me that this company did the same thing last year, moved a house 3 doors down, but they went in the other end of the road, which is wide enough, and they wouldn't have to cut anything down. So the whole thing ended up being a big mistake, I guess, because the owner of the company was in Florida, and so his son was doing this, and all he had to do was call Curtis, and Curtis could have directed him to do this properly. But he didn't do that. And so they just cut down trees to get this house in place. And then Curtis also mentioned to me that they had a permit for the foundation, which they got in December, but they didn't have the permit for the house because the house wasn't built. So they went in after they put the house in to get the building permit. So just a lot of things were just not done properly. So I made a recommendation, and I think Curtis said the same thing, that, they should go in and clean up the mess. First of all of those trees and everything that's on the ground, they should clean that up. They should get a stump grinder in there and cut down and grind down those stumps, because they're sticking up, foot, 2 foot in the air. So someone's going to hurt themselves if they're playing in that area. And there are a lot of kids on the street. And it's not just Evergreen, it's Lakewood Road too. So coming in right off the highway, they had to make a turn. So they cut a lot of those trees down. And then, they should replant those trees that they cut. So if Lon and Curtis are going to handle that, I think they just need to have a letter to the Mr. Cameron so that he knows what has to be done. And therefore, if it's not done to the letter the way it's stated, then we'll have to go out and make sure that it's done properly and send them the bill. So that would be my recommendation.
Thank you. Steve?
I would only note that, I fully agree with replacing the trees at the owner's expense. That the stipulation of the number of years the tree has been alive should be applied, because otherwise you get into, well, we're just going to get a 6-month-old little sapling versus a proper height tree, which should be around 5 years, which is the standard height of 6 to 8 foot tall tree. And then that would allow for Ian and Mr. Bartmanovich to be able to have the privacy back, well, some of it anyway, while the trees grow. Otherwise, they'll be in a position where they have to wait 5 years just to get what should have been planted in the first place.
I think that's a good point. You should stipulate, at least 10-foot trees, and that way just keep it simple. All the trees should be 10 foot. If you buy them, that's the way they come, typically 8 to 10 feet. So I agree with Steve on that.
A 10-foot tree would be exorbitantly expensive. Just you would go off years, not necessarily height. You go off years.
Well, I guess it depends which tree you're replanting. Right?
Yeah, sort of.
Okay. But this is something that I think, given the input, and I think Graham and Henry might have something to say, that we can then leave in the hands of our CAO and our building inspector to follow through. Go ahead, Graham.
Well, I'm certainly happy to leave it to Lon and Curtis to specify exactly what has to be done to make it right, the reparations. But I've tried to argue for the fact that there should be a fine in addition to putting all the pieces back where they used to be. And I'm told that our bylaws are structured such that there's either reparations or a fine, one or the other, not both. Why not both? It's a standard practice in law. You pay for reparations and damages.
I didn't know that. I'll have to look into it.
Our costs.
The reparations will be quite expensive. Adding a little fine on top of it won't do much worse.
Well, who cares how much they are? There should be a fine as well for abridging our regulations.
Okay, can we let Lon and
That's Graham saying that.
Lon and Curtis look into our bylaws and see what?
Yes, if there's any way you can accommodate my humble request, I would appreciate it.
Sure. That's trying to sound like me.
All right. Are you satisfied with the discussion and the way we're going to go with this, Ian?
Yeah, I am. I also should mention that I think it sends a strong message to anybody else that does this in the future, because I understand that this has happened in the past, and usually people write a nice letter saying they're sorry, but you just, people shouldn't be cutting down trees without permission in the RM of Victoria Beach. So this would send a strong message out to people that are thinking about doing this in the future.
Correct.
So Lon will be reporting back to council on what the proposed plan of action will be, and that information will be made public.
Yes.
Well, aren't we leaving it up to Lon just to do it rather than get back to us?
Yeah, I think we'll just leave it with Lon. I don't think this needs to
And
be.
just a final word on this for Lon's benefit. I'm aware of a specific case where a fellow proceeded to bring in a building before he had his building permit. When that came full circle, he had to pay double the cost of the building permit. That's what I'm talking about. Fine as well as reparations.
We do have that. If you don't have a permit and you start building, you
Well, let's use every tool we can to send this strong message, and I trust in Lon and Curtis to do that.
all right.
Just a
Steve?
quick note.
sorry, this is more procedural, is that, given that this directly affects Ian, you should abstain from this vote?
There's no vote.
There's no, yeah. there's
Oh,
no-
sorry.
There's no vote, just.
Oh, I thought there was, okay, never mind.
This is just administrative procedure,
Yeah, it's
acting
okay.
within our bylaws.
Okay.
Okay, good discussion. Thank you, Ian. Right, so, did I miss anything else on the agenda before I move on? So we were moving on to illegal dumping and brushing of brush over the banks and structures on public property. And through the whole shoreline debate and discussions that we've had recently, that keeps coming up, that members of the shoreline community need to remember and need to be aware and take precautions not to dump their brush and debris over the bank and not to build structures without permits and to vegetate the top of the bank, to leave the vegetation on the top of the bank, et cetera. So I think we all have a role to play. We're protecting our shoreline in some areas, and part of protecting that shoreline is leaving the vegetation or adding more vegetation and root systems onto the top.
Well, I got permission now to go ahead with the purchase of roughly about $500-600 worth of seed. So just toss out a call to send me an email if you'd like to help me seed the toe so we can do it properly this summer. Then that'd be very much appreciated because it's going to be a little bit of work.
How about, what do you think of involving the Shoreline Advisory Committee in this as well? They could be part of it, continuing and ongoing.
Perhaps they could reach out to other volunteers once we get a
Yeah,
committee
Maybe
established.
not with the first batch, but the second and the third. I see this as an ongoing process, which is why I'm very much in favor of it.
I mean, it's mostly just up until these saplings can establish themselves. So basically what my plan would be right now just to be to create some seed bombs. Very easy to make, and you just put them along the toe, but then we'll need some people to help just when it gets dry, just to make sure that somebody's going around watering them a little bit. And I'll definitely be involved in that all summer. So.
Thank you.
Just so I understand, Steve, are you talking about putting the seeds in front of the toe, or you're talking about on the toe or above the toe? I just want to get a sense of where you're going to put these seeds.
All of the above.
Wherever it will grow.
Yeah, wherever it will grow.
So you're putting seeds on, there's 17 properties, and then isn't there another 11 properties for Connaught? So that's
No, it's not on anybody's property. It would be within the toe, in front of the toe, behind the toe, basically all around the toe. So then that way we develop a strong root system inside of it. So then we're also taking that naturalistic approach, which we had discussed when we went through the whole process.
Yep. And whether we like it or not.
I'm only mentioning the name of the properties to get a sense of how long it is, right? You've got 17 properties at 100 feet plus another 11 at 100 feet. I just wanted to get a sense, and you're going up 6 feet, so you've got a big square footage of space that you're going to plant some seeds. So I guess you're just going to.
So to give you an idea, it is 58 butterfly bush milkweed seeds, which doesn't seem like that much, but it helps with some rhizomes inside of the what do you call it? The sand there. Basically 750,000 sheep fescus, which is it's a type of grass which was asked of us many times while going through this process, as well as several years ago when this had come up previously. 2,500 white clovers, so then that way there can be some nitrogen going into the sand because we need to support it. 500 grams, I'm not sure how many seeds that is, of prairie wildflowers, so then that way we can get some pollinators down there. 500 red maples and 100 Saskatoon berry seeds. So I believe that would be far more than enough if we put them in strategic locations.
I think it's a good start, and I think scattered seeds. We'll see what happens.
And I think the continuing collapse of the upper bank, which we've been led to expect, um, would help to nourish these seeds as more soil comes down, whether we like it or not.
Okay, and it's $550 expense, so.
Yeah, that's hardly anything.
Okay.
Are all of those plants native to our area?
I ensure that everything can grow. I mean, you're planting in soil, which is where the seed bomb itself comes in, because it's a little bit of soil, a little bit of clay, so you have something there to hold for it to latch onto. Everything that I've just listed off will grow in sand. It can be a crapshoot in sand, which is, as I said, is where the bombs come in. But all of these are from North America and the prairies as well. And also zone 3 and 4, and we're not a hard zone 3, where we can absolutely grow zone 4 plants here very successfully.
Okay, good.
All right, thank you. And I guess we dealt with Ian's concern under 8B, removing trees on public property without permission. So I can just add that Councillor Kumpka and I attended the recent Eastern Municipal Forum meeting in Pine Falls last week, put on by Community Futures Winnipeg River, and Manitoba RCMP gave a really good presentation on cyber fraud and cyber security, and there was something in the news today about a gentleman who lost $600,000 to a scam, and the fraudsters are so good. That, like, the websites are good, their emails are good, their phone calls are good, they've got it all covered, and but if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. But it was a really eye-opening presentation.
And I think I'm attending another seminar shortly from an insurance point of view on cybersecurity and cyber protection. And it's probably the most serious threat that a municipality faces with respect to safeguarding technology, safeguarding information, safeguarding our money. And I'll be reporting back once I've attended that seminar. It's in my 50 years in commercial insurance, this is one of the scariest things I've ever seen.
Thank you. And also yesterday, Councillor Axworthy and I had the pleasure of attending Louis Riel Day celebrations put on by the Métis local over at the community center, and it was a great event, good food, good entertainment, outdoor games, indoor history, and it was a wonderful afternoon. So thank you to those who put it on. And it was great to see an amazing turnout as well for the first one. Go ahead, Steve.
Only as somebody who's teaching history, I just invite everybody to go and research the actual history of Louis Riel. He really was absolutely incredible, exceptionally smart. He was framed as being psychotic and was actively attacked by the federal government, and something that people really don't understand. They just think that there was a small little uprising, but the history is extensive, and more Canadians really need to understand the full history of Canada. But especially with Louis Riel, there is a part of our history that we celebrate, but we don't necessarily understand the full history there. So I just invite everybody to go learn the truth.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Anything else to add?
No.
All right. Moving on, be it resolved, the February 20th, 2024 regular council meeting now be adjourned, and the next meeting will be on Tuesday, March 5th, 2024 at 6 p.m. in Winnipeg, 2035 Portage Avenue. May I have a mover? Graham, thank you. Erwin, second, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Hit the road, Jack.